The smartphone market currently offers many great flagship handsets, all of which bring their own unique features, designs, software experiences, and more to you, the consumer. But as you know, these high-end devices come at a premium cost, upwards from usually $600. Chances are, as you clicked on this video, you know a thing or two about the OnePlus 5. It offers flagship specs for an arguably sub-flagship price. But is this the right phone for you? What is up, you guys? My name is Noah, and you are watching Tech New. Together, let's determine if your next daily driver will be the OnePlus 5. Now, I've been using the OnePlus 5 as my daily driver exclusively ever since it arrived at my doorstep on June 26th. Before we begin, I just want to inform you that this is my first Android device. This handset replaced my well-known and well-loved iPhone 5S, and before then I had been an an iPhone iPod Touch user all my life. So if you happen to be an iPhone user currently and are remotely interested in this phone, after all you're watching this review, know all this analysis is coming from a longtime iOS user's perspective. Like in my last smartphone review, I will be utilizing Marques Brownlee's 5-pillar review philosophy, going into detail on the 5 aspects or pillars that can make or break a device: design, display, battery life, camera, and performance. So without further ado, let's begin. Before we begin with design, allow me to give you a quick spec rundown of this phone. The OnePlus 5 comes in 3 variants: slate gray and soft gold versions with 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, as well as a midnight black version with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, the model I own. All 3 variants pack the Snapdragon 835 SoC clocked at 2.35 GHz, a 3300 mAh battery, a 5.5-inch 1080p optic AMOLED display, a USB 2 Type-C connector, a headphone jack, and the infamously overhyped dual camera setup, which I will go into detail about later in this video. Beginning with design, I think OnePlus really outdid themselves this year. They took a lot of cues from Apple design-wise and... oh, wait a second. Fun fact, just in case you didn't know, the OnePlus 5 looks a lot like the iPhone 7 Plus. So yeah, everyone knows that OnePlus in a sense copied the 7 Plus's design language. This is evident when looking at its antenna lines, camera, flash, logo, and speaker placement. However, beyond that, when you actually hold the phone in person, it feels almost nothing like its twin or clone parent, the 7 Plus. This is due to its pleasantly tapered edges, which I have grown fond of, as they make the phone seem thinner and enable you to grip it a bit better compared to an iPhone with completely rounded, slippery edges. But don't get me wrong, this is a very slippery device, and I recommend you slap a skin or case on it as soon as you get it. I personally use OnePlus's Carbon Bumper, which retails for $29.95 on their website. The buttons are tactile and well placed. The alert toggle, slider switcher, or whatever you want to call it, is a wonderful feature, and is something I'm very happy to have coming from an iPhone. It has a nice crystalline style texture which enables you to easily identify it and push it up or down. The camera hump is minimal, as is the branding. The headphone jack is located at the bottom, thankfully, located next to a USB 2.0 Type-C port, and nicely machined holes for its single loudspeaker, which performs well enough. Here's a quick sample. And lastly, taking a look at the front of the device, you'll notice its flat profile home button and fingerprint sensor, as well as its tiny side bezels, and in my opinion, its forgivably sized forehead and chin bezels. Yes, I too would have liked to have seen an 18:9 QHD Plus display on the OnePlus 5, but I can personally live with the current offering. Overall, the design of the OnePlus 5 is nothing spectacular or unique, but is sleek, simply beautiful, and premium nonetheless. Moving on to display quality, coming from a 5S, of course I'm going to say that the 1080p resolution is great. However, I have also used devices such as the Google Pixel, Samsung Galaxy S8, and LG G6 in person, all of which feature 2K Plus displays. I will admit, the S8 almost had me sold with its gorgeous 18:9 2096x1440 Super AMOLED panel, but what kept me from buying it was TouchWiz, Samsung's take on Android. I wanted a software experience as close to stock Android as possible, while at the same time getting the most up-to-date specifications for the lowest price. For these reasons, I was willing to sacrifice the extra screen resolution and futuristic aspect ratio and live with the 1080p 16:9 AMOLED display found on the OnePlus 5. The display on the OnePlus 5 is bright, sharp, colorful with calibration options and settings, and has a nice contrast due to its AMOLED nature. After using this device for over a month, I have virtually no complaints about this display. and can assure you that this is not a deal breaker if you are considering buying this phone. The lack of resolution can be made up for with increased battery life and blisteringly fast performance, which I will get to momentarily. Speaking of battery life, the OnePlus 5 is up to par and then some with all the top dogs in the smartphone world. This device rocks a 3300 mAh battery, and here's what I can tell you from my experience. I never have had the phone die on me, something I was used to happening all the time with my iPhone. I usually can get through a day of moderate to heavy usage with a minimum of 30% charge remaining. And God forbid you actually need to charge anytime during the day, lucky for you, OnePlus has implemented fast charging into this device. They call it dash charging, which sadly requires a proprietary cable and power brick, both of which come with a phone, mind you. The good news is this technology can charge your phone from 0 to 50 in a half an hour, and 0 to 100 in about an hour to an hour and a half. So yeah, this charging lives up to OnePlus's half day's power in a half an hour mantra. Forget to charge your phone overnight? No problem, you got dash charging. Been binge watching YouTube videos all morning and need some more juice for the rest of the day? Dash charging. Bottom line, the OnePlus 5 has exceptional battery life, period. Our second to last category is camera quality. I'm gonna just get this out of the way. No, the OnePlus 5 does not outperform the 7 Plus nor S8 in this department, but it damn well puts up a good fight. This phone packs a dual camera setup, the main wide-angle shooter with a 16 megapixel sensor and an f1.7 aperture, as well as a secondary telephoto shooter, which offers a 1.4x optical zoom and a 0.6x digital zoom, which add up to create your in-camera 2x zoom. I will tell you, I'm not too thrilled that OnePlus had us all aboard the hype train with their clearer photos mantra. However, I can confirm that you can take some pretty crispy images with this camera. Low light photos turn out okay, perhaps average in my opinion, but if you really want to get a nice shot, I recommend you ensure the lighting around you is adequate, and if not, use the flash. You also have the choice to shoot in a portrait mode that adds an artificial bokeh effect to your shot, something I have found to work well enough, as well as in a pro mode, which enables you to make fine adjustments like tweaking the ISO, and also gives you the option to capture in RAW, a highly editable format of photo. One thing that does bug me a little is OnePlus's post-processing. If you zoom into some of your photos, you can notice this sort of watercolor painting effect, but it isn't a big deal, and I don't notice it in every photo, but some have this effect worse than others. As for the front camera, I have zero complaints. With its 16 megapixel sensor, EIS, and f2.0 aperture, it takes sharp, contrasty selfies and nicely stabilized front video. Good enough to vlog in my opinion. Video capture with a dual camera system is a mixed bag for me. 1080p 30 video looks decent, and I personally think that the EIS does a great job keeping things steady and smooth, despite the fact this phone lacks OIS or optical image stabilization. However, before the 4.5.7 or 4.5.8 OxygenOS updates, which at the moment of the writing this script I do not have installed on my phone, 1080p 60 and 4K 30 video recording seem to lack any kind of stabilization, which I expressed with frustration in my 7 Plus versus OnePlus 5 camera comparison video. Post-update, EIS has finally been implemented into 4K video and hopefully 1080p 60 video, as that isn't listed in the update details. Looking at some camera comparisons done by other YouTubers, 4K footage looks significantly more smooth, and it's evident that the stabilization is doing its job. My advice for you: if you're looking for a new smartphone with the best camera possible, I suggest you look elsewhere. Or if you're really serious, go out and buy a mirrorless or DSLR camera. But if you can get past the fact that this camera setup is not the best on the market at the moment, but does have the capability of capturing some great photos and video, just not 100% of the time, then continue watching this review because we're about to discuss its major selling point. And last but certainly not least, let's talk performance accompanied with software experience. This thing is a monster, a beast. If you want a device that slays the performance game, this is it. I'm a power user who is constantly browsing the internet, watching YouTube videos, sending snaps, and occasionally playing some light games. My main priority is speed, and the OnePlus 5's stellar performance and software experience is the primary reason I purchased it. OxygenOS, OnePlus's light take on Android Nougat, paired with a Snapdragon 835 SoC are a match made in heaven. I can't recall having any hiccups or stutters while using this phone as of yet. Animations are always butter smooth, apps open instantaneously, and the 68 gigs of RAM, in my case 8 gigs of RAM, wipes the floor when it comes to multitasking. The fingerprint sensor found in the home button is lightning fast, and could be the most snappy I've ever seen on a phone. More on software experience though. OnePlus's take on Android is by far my favorite. It adds genuinely useful features and tweaks, while at the same time preserving a stock Android experience. Additions baked into OxygenOS that I enjoy are 1. The customizable gestures you can draw on the display when it's off, which can toggle different applications or actions of your choice. For example, when I draw a V, I toggle the flashlight, and when I draw an S, I can open Snapchat straight from the lock screen. You can also play, pause, or skip tracks with gestures as well. 2. The dark, light, and default modes available, which alter the look of the UI. The dark mode can actually save battery, as less pixels need to be lit. Remember, this has an optic AMOLED display. 3. The ability to change accent colors within the OS, a small but pleasantly noticeable tweak. And 4. The option to choose between software and hardware buttons. After using the OnePlus 5 as my daily driver for over a month, I can confidently say that this smartphone gives you quite the run for your money. For either $479 or $539 depending on which model you choose, you are purchasing a device with a quality build, a more than adequate display, excellent battery life, a great but not exceptional camera setup, and most importantly, one of the, if not the fastest, best Android software experiences on a smartphone to date. So if I convinced you, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, for you iPhone users out there watching this video, I plan on making a video outlining my experiences making the switch from iOS to Android for the first time. In that video, I will cover some of the pros and cons of doing so, and help you decide whether or not you're willing to jump ship. To close, I hope you got something out of this lengthy review, especially if you came in already considering buying the OnePlus 5. I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, other than that, I will catch you all in the next video.